welcome to another edition of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age era comic book podcast. Joining me as always is new Michael, Kevin Jank.
Call me Darth Balls. Bong.
I don't know what that means.
It's a James Silent Bob quote.
Yeah, that's why I have no idea what that means. But tell the kids what we're reading today, Jank.
So today we're going to be reading Howard the Duck, number 31. To talk about a little villain by the name of Doctor Bong.
Doctor Bong, and this is from 1979. Now, when I think of Howard the Duck, I think of Steve Gerber, and I think of whip-smart social and political satire. This is none of those things.
No, it was not.
This is...
No. Bill Mantlo not quite on top of the ball the way Steve Gerber was.
No.
He had his finger on the pulse.
This isn't really Howard the Duck. But, but it's got Dr. Bong, and that's all you cared about. You just wanted to talk about Dr. Bong.
Yeah.
Very excited.
I mean, I looked at the different, he's been in a couple issues before this. I think Steve Gerber did do some of them, so maybe those were better, but I saw the Iron Duck costume, and I'm like, all right, this has got to be the one.
Yes, Howard the Duck dresses up like his version of Iron Man. He looks like a fire hydrant.
Yep. So, yeah, I think it's mostly made out of fire hydrant. So that's pretty cool.
All right, before we get into this issue, though, let's remind everybody, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We're up to 127 subscribers, Jank.
Ooh, all right.
I think we picked up a couple since last week. I don't know.
Yeah, a couple.
But, so that's something. All right, so Howard the Duck, this is our second time. This is the first time we've done Howard the Duck, you and I. But Mike L. and I did a Howard the Duck issue back in the day. I think we did issue 8, where Howard runs for president. And that was written by Steve Gerber and drawn by Gene Colan. And that was awesome. I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Perfect 10 for me.
Yeah. Yep. One of the best things I read. It was so good. This is not that. So let's just get that out of the way right now. This is.
You can kind of see what the series was wrapping up about now.
This is actually the final issue of the initial run, even though, like, there are technically 33 issues in the Howard the Duck run there, but this concluded the 1979
came back or something, right, later on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 1986, they released 2 one-shots, I guess, to try and help hype up the movie. So, and they picked up the numbering at 32 and 33. So, yeah, but this is the final issue of the original run. And let's talk about this Howard the Duck here. Of course, we won't go over the whole history again because I already did it, and who wants to do that? But it was created by Steve Gerber and Val Myrick. And Howard's first appearance was in the Adventure into Fear issue 19 from 1973, and he was a secondary character in a Man-Thing story.
Of course. Yep. Those are always interlinked characters for sure.
Yeah, started out with Man-Thing. And then the volume 1 there of his own series ran for, like we said, 31 issues from 1976 through 1979, and then the 2 one-shots in 86. And then after that initial run ended in 1979, the book switched to a black and white magazine format for 9 issues. Yeah. I was not aware of that, I don't think. Or at least I forgot.
Yeah, I saw that in the big announcement at the end of this issue. Yeah, I saw that they were doing that. So, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the creators here for this one are Bill Mantlo, who we've talked about, about 1,000 times on the show.
Yes,
and
countless times.
If there's a book in the 1970s, Bill Mantlo wrote it at some point or another.
Yep. Him and Roy Thomas, neck and neck.
He only wrote issues 30 and 31 of Howard the Duck, and then he did the black and white magazine. He did all 9 issues of that. Gene Colan did, I'm a big Gene Colan fan here, but he did issues 4 through 20, 24 through 27, and then 30 and 31. So he was all over Howard the Duck.
Nice.
And yeah, we've talked about Gene Colan countless times on the show as well. When I think Gene Colan, I like to think a lot of like heavy blacks and atmospheric and, scary, almost spooky kind of. And this is not that.
Not a lot of that here, no. You would not use those words to describe this comic.
Yeah, like if you saw this, I don't know if anyone would say, oh yeah, that's Gene Colan if you're just looking at it. It's inked by Al Milgrom, and I think that probably had a factor in it.
Yeah. That's never good.
But clearly, Gene's not going to like draw Howard the Duck the same as he did Tomb of Dracula. But still, he would like to at least recognize his style, which I don't think anyone will from this.
No. I mean, he draws a decent Howard the Duck, so I'll give him that.
Yeah, I liked when Howard looked like he looks okay here. Like in the earlier part of the run, he looked even better. Like he was basically just Donald Duck smoking a cigar and being a jerk. And they kind of got in trouble, so they had to alter him a little bit. And then like after this, he started to look much different. Like when the movie came out, they started, I don't know, he does not look attractive.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like,
yeah, that's true. They made him like, I think whiter and like, definitely like the way that he looked in like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies was weird.
Yeah, like a short stubby, like a short stubby bill and more of like a duck body and stuff. I don't know, that's just weird. But yeah, I like the early version much better. So, all right, the key players in this book, of course, are Howard. And I don't know, what's the backstory on Howard the Duck? He came from Duck World. His home planet of duck, nothing but ducks.
Yeah, it's like Earth, but all duck people. As the movie so clearly demonstrated with duck boobies. There's like a naked duck in the bathtub.
Yeah, the less we talk about that movie, the better, probably. But yeah. As I've pointed out many times through the years, I was one of the unfortunate souls to actually see it in theaters when it came out. And I was very excited, and it was not good. Yeah, it was terrible.
I don't think I've ever actually seen the whole thing all the way through.
Yeah, few people have. When you really get, they all start it with the best of intentions. Yeah, let's watch Howard the Duck, and then let's stop watching Howard the Duck. So.
You get like a very rare like Xbox achievement if you do.
So, yeah, Howard's just a wisecracking duck, kind of like I don't know. He's smoking a cigar in the early days, and he's just I don't want to say bitter, but like I don't know. He's angry a lot of the time. Yeah, it's just
he doesn't like being in the human world, except for Beverly. Big fan of Beverly.
Who isn't a big fan of Beverly? Beverly Switzler is her name, and she's like Howard's love interest in all this. She's a very foxy redhead, and she was an artist's model for like drawing classes and stuff, and she was kidnapped by a fella named Pro Rata, who was an evil sorcerer who used his accounting skills to cast spells.
Ooh, I see a future career for me right here.
So he kidnapped, he hired her, I guess, but then kidnapped her when and then Howard, this is back in issue 1 of Howard the Duck. And then Pro Rata used his spells to like create some Conan the Barbarian type world. And so he had Beverly in this little chainmail outfit and stuff. And then Howard came in and Howard saved her. And I think Spider-Man even showed up at some point in that first issue, I believe.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I seem to recall him on the cover there in like a little circle at the bottom or something. But anyway, Howard saves Beverly, and she kind of like is his love interest from then on out. So that's Beverly's deal.
So that's what they're saying is that, you know, she'd rather be the love interest of a duck than an accountant. I take that.
And the villain in this book is Jack's beloved Doctor Bong. And how did you first encounter Dr. Bong exactly?
The first time I guess I encountered Dr. Bong was in an issue of Joe Kelly's run on Deadpool, where Deadpool was having like a hard time and Dr. Bong had become like a psychiatrist. He was essentially like the Doc Samson, except for like, you know, villains and anti-heroes. Like you couldn't go to him if you were kind of on the outskirts of the law. So you go to Dr. Bong to kind of be your psychiatrist. For
those who don't remember Doc Samson, he's the green-haired fella in the Hulk, right? Yeah. And he would always be like Hulk psychiatrist or something. Is that what he was?
Yeah, he was, and pretty much anytime any superheroes needed help, I feel like they would go to him. Like that, it was that classic X Factor issue where they went. They were mandated by the government to go, and like anytime, you know,
so
you had an issue.
He's the Fraser Crane of the superhero world. Toss salads and scrambled eggs.
Radio.
All right, so that's how you heard about. I was really not too aware of Dr. Bong, just in passing. I never read any Howard the Duck with him in it or anything. So you were very excited when you told me about Dr. Bong a couple months back. I still remember it vividly. You were very excited telling me about Dr. Bong.
Yeah, it kind of came back on my radar because of Marvel Puzzle Quest, where they recently added him. as a character, and I was like, oh yeah, Dr. Bong. That's fun. Like all three of the moves are just different bongs. It just says bong with like more G's and more exclamation points at the end each time, and there's like three different colors. It's like, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, Dr. Bong, he's like this big jack dude in like a purple costume, but he's got a cape, and his left hand is just a like a bell clapper, just a thing, and then his head is just a giant bell. And he hits himself in the head.
For like a terrible supervillain. Like this is what you want to do if you're trying to make like just a goofy ass, Z level like villain. This is what you do. This works.
And he just conks himself on the head, and bong, and he has different powers through his various bonging, right? He can freeze people. He can like vibrate things to crack them down and stuff. Yeah, he's
like sonic shields of some kind, apparently. Like, yeah, there's all kind of things throughout this issue.
Also teleport, I guess, as well.
Yeah, teleport himself back home. Yeah, who knew?
Yeah, and I guess he has a secret headquarters in like the Himalayas, right? Some Himalayan mountain. But this Dr. Bong fella, no one apparently knows exactly how he became Dr. Bong, but his real name is Lester Verde, and his first appearance was Howard the Duck issue 15, 1977, created by Steve Gerber and Gene Colan. Like, they provide his whole backstory, but they don't get to the part where he becomes Dr. Bong. But apparently he was a overweight child who was always being bullied. And one time he came home, and he was telling his mother about it, and he was all upset and crying, and he was yelling about the kids, and he called the other kids a bunch of monkey mouths. And
you do.
Well, except his mother thought it was hilarious, and she said, "Oh, that is so funny that you called them monkey mouths." And because he thought it was an insult. I see it as like the highest of compliments to call someone a monkey mouth. But she's like, "You're so talented. You should be like a writer or something. You're so imaginative." And so he went back and said, "Oh yeah, maybe I will be a writer." So he was a writer. And he'd be like an investigative journalist on like the school newspapers and stuff throughout grade school and high school and college. Except a lot of the times he would use the power of the pen to be very vindictive and to get revenge on people. And like he ruined some people's careers and stuff. And I don't know. But
time.
Yeah. And also in his I think in his college days, he had a drawing class where Beverly was the live model. And he became smitten and infatuated with her.
Yep.
And he kept trying to hit on her. She wanted nothing to do with him, of course. And so then at some point he became like a roadie or a tech person for a death metal band. I can't remember.
This guy lives a colorful life, I tell you.
That's very strange. And at one of their set on stage, they featured a lot of giant bells, and they would like ring these bells. And then there's all kind of other contraptions and stuff on this stage. And at one point, he got his left hand cut off by a guillotine on stage. So that's how he lost his hand. And then the giant bells, I guess somehow this all coalesced to make him Dr. Bong.
Basically like Spinal Tap if it ended up in a supervillain.
Yeah. Now, how he got all big and jacked and everything, I don't know. How he, this giant bell on his head and he can, all these powers. No,
went from being a writer to having, this bell that could do anything, apparently.
But that's the best they could find.
A scientist.
That's the best they could come up with for Dr. Bong. So there he is. That's your backstory here. And when this issue starts, he is married to Beverly, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that Steve Gerber intended that to be permanent, even though it seemed like he had kidnapped her pretty much and was holding her there.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that seems like a weird choice.
Yeah, the marriage was, he had threatened to murder Howard the Duck if Beverly didn't marry him. Like he had Howard captured or something.
Yeah.
So Beverly, and at some point, I guess, Dr. Bong turned Howard into a human man.
Oh, yeah, I saw that when I was flipping through the issues, yeah.
So, but anyway, Beverly, she loves Howard. She didn't want Howard to die, so she said, all right, I'll marry you. And we also learned in this issue that they never consummated the marriage, thankfully.
Yes, it's an important piece of lore. Gotta keep Beverly from being too icky.
Oh, that's good. But, yeah, so she wasn't in love with Dr. Bong or anything. She was blackmailed into marrying him. She always loved Howard,
Mm-hmm.
So she loves that sweet, sweet duck love. So. Right.
Who would?
Is there anything else we should know about Howard the Duck or Dr. Bong before we start this?
I don't think so. I mean, there's a bunch of other characters in this issue, but I don't know who they are. And
I'll be honest. I tried to research. I still couldn't find who they were. There's just one lady. They just Wanda or something or something.
Or Winda, yeah.
Winda, and but they just mention her name on Marvel fandom, but they don't even have any description of who she is or anything. They just have her picture and all right. And then I think there's another guy. He's like an artist that lived above Howard and Beverly. His apartment was up above them in their apartment building. And I guess he gets involved in their shenanigans sometimes. So I think he's the guy in a coma or whatever.
Yeah. But, they're like, oh, this somehow brought Winda back to life. This guy's still in a coma though.
This guy's still in a coma. All right, Jank, let's look at the cover. Why don't you describe it for us? This is also Gene Colan inked by Al Milgrom.
All right, yeah, so we got the corner box there with Howard kind of smoking and jumping out at the reader.
I like that. Yeah, I like that Howard there, with the crazy the polka dot tie, and it's not a
shadow on the underside of his foot. Pretty good.
Yeah, and he's smoking a cigar, and he looks pissed, He just looks angry.
He's mad his book got canceled.
So I like that corner box, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Then we got the Marvel Comics group, trapped in a world he never made, Howard the Duck. Yeah, and then we got Dr. Bong is lifting up Howard, and who was in his armor, but is basically all of it is shattering off at the moment. And Dr. Bong says, "Your ridiculous armor means nothing to Dr. Bong." And then at the bottom we get a title card that says "The Final Bong."
What a way to go out!
It was a big, epic arc of Howard the Duck was him going up against this Dr. Bong.
Yeah. So how do you feel about this cover?
It's not the prettiest. I'll say that for sure. Dr. Bong looks a little strange. He looks like a sumo wrestler here. Beyond Jack, he's kind of just overweight.
I don't know. I like Bong. He looks kind of intimidating there. But I don't like Howard. Howard looks too cartoony, like just a Disney cartoon duck instead of a pissed off duck. But
you want him to look like Louie. Which one's the duck you don't like?
Yeah, Huey, Dewey, or Louie. I don't know. There's one of them I just can't stand. But but I don't know. I like this cover. It's fine. I guess nothing great, but nothing too bad. All right, so we open it up, and Howard the Duck. Bill Mantlo, Gene Colan, Al Milgrom, and then Irv W. George. Or no, what am I reading here? Irv W. on letters.
George R. on colors.
So they don't even tell you their last names.
They had to get more bongs in there. That's blocking up some of the space.
And then, of course, our buddy Jim Shooter is the editor. So, all right. So we open it up, Jack, the big splash page. It's Dr. Bong hitting himself in the head.
Yeah. Says, I do like that Dr. Bong has a big, WWF wrestling belt on, and it's got a picture of a bell in the middle. Just in case the giant bell on his head wasn't enough.
He's the Intercontinental Champion. So he says, "Quake within your misbegotten battle armor, Howard, for today shall toll the final bong." And we see Howard standing in this little Iron Man outfit. And then there's some other dude who's frozen in place. And apparently they had come up with some little invention that if they connected it, it would have disabled Dr. Bong's powers. But Dr. Bong bonged himself in the head, and it froze that other guy. But it doesn't freeze Howard because he's wearing the armor, and he also has cotton stuffed in his ears.
Yes. Very important piece of the plot. Yeah. Honestly, the cotton seems like it was more useful than the actual armor itself.
Yeah, the armor really wasn't too beneficial throughout any of this.
Yeah. Those little, 50-cent cotton balls were really the heroes here.
but he's encased within the cut-rate iron duck armor created for him by Claude Starkowski, penniless amateur armorer and shell-shocked Vietnam veteran. Of course, that's a little parody there of Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Claude Starkowski. And Howard faces his most fearsome foe in the shadowed corridors of Scudge Hospital. All right, right away, if you're sick or in trouble, don't go to a place called Scudge Hospital.
Not at all. That's like as bad as that in the X-ray movie that we watched for the LCS hockey show. Like, you don't want to go to that hospital, and you don't want to go to this one called Scudge.
Scudge. So, all right, Jack, now we look and we see Howard in his little armor, and I guess Dr. Bong's trying to bonk him with his bell clapper hand there. And we start
he's got like little windshield wipers on the front of his visor there, but they don't actually touch the visor. They just wipe away apparently what's above his eyes.
Well, they come into play later. Like, cause he does get stuck. Yeah, they fall, they activate and they come down and wipe it. Cause he has like a big glass face shield so we can see his face.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise he looks like a fire hydrant. And he's got like springs beneath his feet.
Yeah. Instead of like rocket boots, he just has springs that he kind of bounces around on.
Pretty terrible outfit. I don't. Did we ever find out who this guy is that is frozen? Doesn't he call him Lee? But I don't know if we ever know who he is, though. Do we?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if they ever say his actual like full name.
Yeah, because it's not Claude Starkowski. That fellow we see a bit later. So yeah, I don't know what this guy's deal is. But anyway, so Dr. Bong's just chasing after Howard, and he bongs himself on the head real loud. And what does this do to Howard, Jank?
It seems to shake him up inside the armor. He's kind of vibrating a bunch. He's like, I felt that one right through Claude's souped up sardine can. And he kind of goes flying. He gets sent into like a water bottle, like at the water cooler. And gets water all over his visor. So finally the wipers activate and we get to see, the water just shooting off.
Also, when he did that big
bong, it
don't
look like they're actually touching the
yeah, now that you pointed out, it looks like it's just touching the very top of the visor. But also, I guess that big bong created some sonic force field around the hospital, like outside, so no one can get in and no one can get out. I don't really think that really never came into play either. Like, no one ever seemed to notice that, so.
Yeah, not really, no.
All right, then Howard has some, flamethrower attachment to his suit.
They make mention that apparently he learned how to use the flames of the Faltine from Doctor Strange at some point.
Yeah, I guess.
Sounds like a good story. But apparently he hasn't done that in a while, so it's like, this is a good substitute. He's got a flamethrower now.
But the flames don't seem to bother Dr. Bong really at all.
No.
And, he bongs himself in the head. And he's vibrating everything around the room.
It's only got one move, really.
Yeah.
It does a lot of different things, but it's mostly just bonging himself in the head.
So he starts vibrating stuff over the room, and it like kind of buries Howard beneath like hospital gurneys and boxes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then Howard's got a little light on his chest, and he shoots that up. Wow, what a fight this is! But how does Howard? It looks bleak for Howard, Jank, because Dr. Bung's about to smash him with his bell clapper there. But what does Howard do to his
laying
face?
On the ground? He can't get up. What's he gonna do to get out of here? Except use his whirling butt bit.
That's right. His whirling.
He's got a drill bit in his ass that he can drill through the floor with.
His whirling butt bit. And he falls through the floor, but then he lands on those springs of his on his feet. And apparently he is so out of control on those springs that he just bounces right back up the stairs and comes right back into the room where he was. So, all right.
It turns out that this footwear is about as bad as Dazzler wearing those skates all the time. Probably not efficient in battle.
Doesn't really help out too much. So yeah, he's right back where he was, and except there's a small detour there. And Dr. Bong says, so the dropout drops back in. A clever maneuver, Duck. But one which in the devalued currency of courage has brought you mere moments of continued life. And then Howard's thinking to himself, keep chattering, chime face. I can't hear a word you're saying. But unless you've been neglecting your oral hygienics, there ain't no way in the world you're going to miss hearing this. And he connects some wires on that machine that other dude was trying to connect.
Yeah.
Before he got frozen. And I guess they set off a bunch of booms and explosions and whatnot. And for some reason, he expected this to, like, deactivate all of Dr. Bong's powers.
Yeah, I think they said, like, I think there were 5 of them. I'm guessing from what they said here that if all 5 of them went off, it would have stopped Dr. Bong somehow. But, like, only, like, one of them didn't have enough power, like the battery wasn't connected or something. So one of them didn't go off, so it did nothing, essentially. Yeah,
so we get one panel cut back to Claude Storkowski at his headquarters, and he's holding up, like, a battery, and he's like, hey, I forgot to install a battery in one of the sonic dishes. Gee, I hope Howie and Lee don't mind. And then, yeah, that's why things don't work. Then we cut back to Howard, and he's like, oh, man. So, what does he do now, Jank?
Well, he's going to have to he had a break in case of emergency hammer, and I think it's in the chest piece, I guess, like a little
hip, it's a little hip thing. It's a little hip. Like, Iron Man has those things
on the side. Hip. Yeah. Yep. In case of mortal danger, break glass. And he just smashes into it, gets this little hammer. And apparently he fought Dr. Bong before, and he smacked him in the head with a hammer, and it worked. So he's like, I'll try it again. And he does.
Yeah, because, just as an outsider reading this, it would seem like hitting Dr. Bong in the head with a hammer is like the last thing you want to do, because it's just exactly what he does all the time. Yeah, but I guess if it's a different hammer than his hand, maybe it's bad for him.
It'll resonate differently. Yeah, I don't know. If you have the right hammer.
Yeah, so Howard jumps up and smacks him in the head with the hammer, and there's like a big explosion. And
the Bonger worked once before, Doc, and I'm willing to try for sloppy seconds.
That's the line they put in this book. Sloppy seconds. All right, so it looks like there's a big explosion, and the doctors and nurses who are around in Skudge Hospital are all sad. They think Howard's dead. But actually, they just teleported back to Dr. Bong's Himalayan mansion.
Yeah. That's convenient. They could have just, randomly teleported anywhere, but no, it takes them right home.
And there's a big discussion here of Dr. Bong. First Dr. Bong bongs himself on the head and shoots Howard across the room again. And but then he's like, strange, Beverly could not have missed hearing our arrival. And he goes on talking about it, like, all right, I don't know if we needed any of that. But he just keeps bonging, and Howard is shaking and rattling,
Mm-hmm.
And his arm is flying off apart. Right yeah.
Yep.
Man, there's a lot of bonging in this.
Not the kind we're all hoping for.
A lot of bonging. There's 2 pages of bonging. And now at some point, Jank, Howard's just like, his arms and feet are exposed, his head's exposed. He's just in like the body of the armor, and the little front chest thing popped off, and there's like a little bolt that falls on the ground. So Howard like picks it up and just tosses it gently, but it lands on Dr. Bong's foot. And he is mortally wounded, apparently. He's like hopping up and down, like, my foot. So that
tiny piece of metal. Oh,
I don't understand that. I don't get that.
No, not at all. For such a big guy, to be taken down by such a tiny thing, like a little piece of metal falling on his foot.
So then Howard's trying to run away, and there's more bonging and like all kind of stuff from the room. There's like shooting onto Howard and stuff. And now we cut away to see Beverly, and I don't know, she's with a bunch of like little creatures or something, like Fraggles.
Yeah, I guess that's something that Dr. Bong was supposed to be like a parody of Dr. Moreau. So maybe these are like weird animal people that he's made.
All right. And she's like telling him, hey, hurry up. It sounds like Dr. Bong's back. And they're working on some top secret project. And she says, all right, hopefully this works. And then she goes out, because again, they're in the Himalayas. And she has like a newspaper article that she's telling a Sherpa to hurry up and get it back to Cleveland. So I'm sure that'll happen immediately.
Yeah, that'll definitely be there by the morning paper for sure.
So now we cut back to Dr. Bong, and he's still bonging. And
there is.
Good old Howard.
Howard sits down to his his body, like the torso piece, just kind of the body of the fire hydrant, and even that now is shaking off. And he's just like, well, this is it. End of the iron duct.
Yeah, he even lost his whirring butt bit. Everything's gone.
Yep.
So he's like stark naked now. He's just a little duck. No clothes on or nothing. And he's like, drafty place you got here, Doc. And Dr. Bong. Why don't you do Dr. Bong? I like when you do voices. Why don't you read what Dr. Bong says?
Very funny, Howard. A real knee slapper. Your last, I'm afraid. Enough. Listen closely, Duck. The next sound you hear will be... I bet it was going to be Bong.
Yeah. But it's actually Beverly. Yep. Yeah, he calls Beverly. And we should also say that Dr. Bong pulls out the cotton from Howard's ears before that. So, like, he figured that's how he was able to survive the bonging. So now he's like, you're going to get it now. But Beverly comes in the room and she yells, Lester, and he says, Beverly. And Howard says, Toots, is it really you? She's like, yep.
Thanks for coming to rescue me, Ducky. Good thing I didn't hold my breath. She's been there a while.
And, so what's her big plan here, Jen? Because this is another questionable decision by Mr. Mantlo, but what's her big plan?
Yeah, this is a unique way to wrap up a conflict, I suppose. She has created a bunch of tiny bell creatures out of a toenail clipping of Dr. Bong, like quintuplets, basically, made from his DNA. So they're his children. And if he does anything to harm Howard, she has already leaked this to the press, and she's going to out him as a deadbeat dad of these 5 children if he doesn't leave Howard alone.
Yeah, that is like awful, right? Like, what is?
It comes out of nowhere. Like, maybe there was some slight setup the earlier issue, like last issue, but I doubt it. I feel like this is just kind of a random way out.
She mentioned something like, I know you care so much about your public image or whatever. Like, I guess this is a way to end something, but I don't know. I guess they're doing it for jokes and gags and whatnot, but I don't know. This one doesn't really land, I don't think. Just,
no. You evolve these in the Evolvo chamber. So weird. Yeah. And this is where it comes out that they never consummated the marriage. He's like, those are my children. We never consummated the marriage. He's like, well, whose fault is that? Like, you just wanted to read that poem every night.
Yeah, so it sounds like Beverly was down to consummate it. And, but Dr. Bong was too busy reading a certain poem by Edgar Allan Poe. The Bells, he would read every night till dawn. And then he says, you dare say that in front of this duck? You've gone too far,
Beverly.
So I don't know. And she says, go ahead, Lester, bong till your brains fall off. But if anything happens to Howard or me, this headline will appear on tomorrow's Cleveland Plain Dealer. Knock quite a hole in your image, won't it, Lester? Yeah, because they're usually based out of Cleveland, Howard and Beverly, right? So, and the big headline is
disappoint Cleveland. I feel like Dr. Bong would be fine. Like, there was no internet back then.
The big headline is Bong negligent father abandons quintuplets, and she's like, and after all, you're the one who said image is all. And he says, no, I mean, yes, I've been betrayed. Delilah, Jezebel, Judas, Ehrlichman, Heidelman, some Nixon jokes. And, hey, name calling isn't going to accomplish anything. Can't we settle this like adults? I think you're giving Lester too much credit, Toots. And he just bongs really loud, and he teleports them back to Scudge Hospital.
Yep. So, good old Scudge Hospital. Still standing.
And that's where we see,
still went away as soon as Dr. Bong did as well.
And we see 2 people in the hospital bed. One guy's got his head wrapped up in bandages, and that is Paul Same. Like I said, I think that's that artist fellow who lived above them. And then Wanda Wester. And Wanda is no longer in her coma, but Paul still is. And the one doctor at the hospital is, is that the guy, is that Lee? Is that her uncle? Lee Switzler?
Yeah, she says, hi, Uncle Lee, so yeah.
Yeah, so he was the guy who was helping them earlier, was her uncle. But yeah, they're back at the hospital, and everything seems okay. I don't know. I guess that's it. And now we cut back to Dr. Bong.
Dr. Bong is, he's having his, animal people heat up the formula for these babies. Now he's got some responsibility. But I don't think these babies ever come back, so I don't know what happened to him. Must have been a incident.
if there's a villain and you're trying to defeat this villain, do you want to give him an army of, 5 more people just like him? Like, he's going to raise these kids up to be evil, so.
They're all going to be bonging. That's too much bonging.
A lot of bonging going on in that house. And then we see at the offices of the Cleveland Plain dealer, there's a guy reading a newspaper and he says, "You say this came by llama early this morning, Riley?" And he's like, "Yeah, COD too." Like, this guy's like reading this newspaper that Beverly sent him, but he just throws it in the garbage. He's like, "Yeah, we're not going to print this."
Yep.
So.
Just like the ending of The Watchmen.
So that's it. That's how the book ends. That's how Howard the Duck Volume 1 ends. Like, that's it for Howard the Duck.
Yep. Yeah, I'm guessing this would not be the ending that Steve Gerber had in mind, but
I'm going to guess not.
Bill Mantlo decided to do.
And then there's a letters column, Wisecracks, it's called. And at the end of that, there's an announcement that the duck is dead. You hold in your hands the last issue of Howard the Duck. And at least they say the color comic. And then they say, yeah, we're bringing it back as a black and white. So in 2 months, that magazine will come out. So the duck is not dead. But at the end, the duck is dead. Long live the duck. So it's quite the announcement there. So there it is, Howard the Duck issue 31. And this is not Howard the Duck to me. I don't know what this is, but this is not Howard the Duck.
I'm guessing this is probably more similar to most of the Howard the Duck stories they've done in recent years.
Well, I think recently hasn't he become like a private detective? I think.
Possibly.
Yeah, I'm pretty
sure. I know
that's
there was a time where he turned into like a rat. It was more like a Mickey Mouse parody, I think.
But yeah, I think the most recent things I've seen from him, he's like a PI. And, so I don't know if that's any better.
This kind of tone is probably what they go for with that, though.
Yeah, if you're not getting, if Steve Gerber's not writing Howard the Duck, don't bother. It was Gerber's baby. It was his big, creation.
Gerber's baby.
and it was all just, being satirical and poking fun at things. And, yeah, this is none of that. This is just like a kid's comic about a duck. This is,
yeah, it ended up being so lightweight. Like I got to the end of the issue and I was like, what?
It floated away. It was so
like, yeah. Like it was such a weird battle that like really didn't, they somehow filled the pages with this whole battle, but nothing really happened. He just kept getting bonged. He would keep losing pieces of his armor. Not really do anything. The only thing he did the whole time was the one flamethrower thing, and that's about it.
And that didn't work. That didn't do anything anyway. It was just in one panel.
Then he's utterly defeated. He even loses the cotton balls and just like, oh yeah, here's these babies. We defeated you with PR.
Even the whirling butt bit, it just took him down, and then he came right back to where he was. So it's just a page to go right back where he was.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, because it was like 30 pages, I think, the final count, right? When you're looking at the bottom there, it says page 30. But yeah, like, this could have been told in 3 pages. Like, there's nothing here. Nothing here. So, I don't know.
Yeah. That just went one eye right up the other.
Now, normally, we've done so many Bill Mantlo's issues on this show, and normally we're not huge fans of Mantlo, but he has done a couple good things. Like, I think last year he wrote our book of the year, the Luke Cage, where he fought Mr. Fish.
Oh, Mr. Fish, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because that was just a fill-in issue, and that's what Mantlo, he was the king of the fill-ins. Like, whenever someone was falling behind deadlines, they'd say, hey, get Mantlo. And he'd come in and he'd just write a one-shot deal for a book or something. And so that's what he was known for. I think he also did the Micronauts, I think, when we read that, right?
Okay, I can see that.
That wasn't too bad. But normally it's not the best. And Steve Gerber, in that first issue of Howard we did, that was exceptionally well written.
That's the bar very high, yeah.
That also won a Golden Flea Award for Best Writing that year. So this is not that. And Gene Colan's art here, again, it really doesn't look like Gene Colan much at all. How do you feel about the page designs in this, the panel layouts? Because I found them very annoying. They're, like, there were never, like, any standard, like, layouts with just normal horizontal page breaks, right? They're always angled and
I feel like towards the end it got a little bit more standard, but yeah, for the most part they were kind of angled, and maybe that was kind of a thing they were going for with the Doctor Bong thing, is like it's shaking everything up and everything's off kilter.
Thought of Bong and it's knocking all the panels out of whack. All right, well then maybe that's cool. But I never like a page layout where you have to have arrows telling you how to read it. It could be like, go from this panel to that panel. Well, then that's a poor layout. I shouldn't. We don't need that. So yeah, not a fan of that.
Just guessing.
And again, it's just not Howard, and it's really not Gene Colan when you're looking at the art either. So I don't know. Yeah, I did not enjoy this very much.
No, this is a step down for Howard the Duck for sure. There's no other way to say it. I want to give it a good Iron Duck battle, but I can't say the Iron Duck career was very, filled with achievement.
What would you give this one out of 10?
Maybe like a 4.
Yeah, it's tough because I like Howard the Duck, but this isn't Howard the Duck to me. I don't know what this is. And I like Gene Colan, but it's not like I will look at this and I like, this isn't even Gene Colan if I just looked at it. So I don't know. I'll give it a 3, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I was being generous with a 4, but yeah, 3 is totally okay.
2 might be a little too harsh. I like Beverly. I like Howard. So, but
still, like the faces on Beverly and stuff weren't that great.
Yeah. But again, maybe even 3's too generous. But it has Doctor Bong, so I guess it's stupid, silly. But yeah, there's not much here, so don't get
there were moments where like the dialogue I thought was kind of funny, but not enough.
There's no like biting tone from Howard at all. It was all just like I don't know, his voice. I wouldn't recognize this as Howard's voice if I'm reading it either. I don't think. But anyway, all right. So there it is.
Like time for satire in this issue. There was just but long pointless battle.
There is a Howard the Duck where he gets involved in like professional wrestling. You might have to check that one out. Yeah. But all right, so there's Howard the Duck, issue 31. There are way better Howard the Ducks out there. Go back and read the early Gerber run. You'll love it. But this, not so much. All right, so next week, Jank. This week we did a book about a talking duck. Next week we're going to do a book about a guy who talks to fish.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Michael's favorite?
We're going to do Aquaman next week. That's right. We're going to do Aquaman issue 53 from 1970. So this is, we're early. Can't get much earlier than this in terms of our show.
Really cutting it off.
Yeah. Technically this is pre-Bronze Age, but, we do 70s and 80s the entire decade. So, this is a real early appearance of Black Manta.
Okay.
And California is sinking. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we're doing this as a tie into the movie because I did see a commercial the other day for Aquaman, and I was like, all right, we like to tie things together here with what's going on in the world of America. So I figured we'll read Aquaman. And also, Jack, in the history of this show, which has been running for over 4 years now, I believe the most watched or listened to episode of all time was the last time we did Aquaman. So,
that was probably all Mike L. Just re-listening to it, reliving it over and over again.
Mike L. loved Aquaman. If Aquaman, well, I was going to say if Aquaman and Batman are both drowning, but Aquaman couldn't drown. But who do you think Mike L. would save if he could only save Aquaman or Batman? Who do you think he would save?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Real Sophie's choice.
Yep.
I don't know. But maybe we'll find out next week. But yeah, Aquaman next week. So until then, thanks to Jank, thanks to Doctor Bong, and thanks to you for listening. And again, if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And until next week, don't get any jank on you.